Have you read the Storybook Bible that your child is reading? There is at least one parent who has been very disturbed to find out that their child was given something called the Brick Bible at VBS this year. And as it turns out, thousands of unsuspecting parents and children have been duped by what looks like an innocuous storybook Bible, but it is really trying to convince children not to believe in God. Also, we are talking about the glorification of childlessness, its latest iteration on X, and my response to it today as we talk about the problem of elevating animals to the place of children. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone is having a great week. Thank y'all so much. Yesterday, I posted on Instagram that I have an idea for an ad or even an ad campaign or a messaging strategy when it comes to Kamala Harris and this assault that they have launched against J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, but even more so J.D. Vance, in calling him weird. Have y'all seen that over and over again? And I wouldn't typically even bring it up because I wouldn't want to draw attention to the fact that they have labeled them in this way. But I think it's just so pervasive at this point, which speaks to the uniformity of the Democratic Party. That speaks to their effective strategy and that they can come together, they can agree on messaging, and that they can absolutely run with it. And I've been chewing on this for the past few days because I represent women. I mean, not all women, obviously. Many don't agree with me, but I mean, that is what I am. I am a woman. And so that's the only demographic that I can say I even somewhat represent and that I am a part of. And then more specifically, the Christian woman. And I would love to say that all Christian women are definitely going to vote Republican, but it's not going to happen. And we need them to. We can't have them sit at home. We can't have them be apathetic. We can't have them write someone in. We can't have them vote third party. We can't have them, oh my goodness, vote for Kamala Harris. And yet, I know it might seem strange to some of you, but this strategy of just calling Trump Vance weird, just out of the realm of normal, creepy even, that actually can be extremely effective because look, in this demographic, we've got a lot of busy moms or a lot of working women. They don't have a lot of time to look into the policies. And while I think that we should absolutely hammer home the policy differences between Harris and Trump, because Harris is truly a far left radical whose policies have been and will be murderous and destructive, we also have to remember that there is a significant voting bloc, specifically among women who do operate on their feelings and emotions. And as much as I have lamented that over the years, as frustrated as I have been by that, I also realize it is what it is. And I'm not going to change that in the next 100 days. Now, I hope to convince as many people as possible by talking about the policies to at least not vote for the Democratic candidate. But it has to be a multifaceted approach. And if there are people who are voting based on vibes, I want the vibes for this side to be immaculate. And I want the vibes for Kamala to be disastrous. I want them to be abhorrent. And so it takes, I think, just a certain level of strategy and thinking and labeling and messaging to create that vibe shift. And I apologize for that terminology because vibe shift, it's like vibrations, energy, new age. And I don't mean that. I just mean the feelings, like the vibes for right now for Kamala, unfortunately, are really good. She's got really good vibes. And look, the right can't overcome everything that she has in her corner. Okay. She's got the mainstream celebrities. I guarantee she'll get Taylor Swift to come out in support of her. She's got Beyonce. She's got Megan Thee Stallion, who I guess has influence. I don't know. She's got all of the media. She's got academia. She's got most of the federal government. She's got even these great global institutions. I mean, she's got all the messaging. She's got a lot of these social media companies and social media influencers. And look, the right's not going to be able to overcome that part. Like, we're not going to be able to get celebrities that have the same pull as the celebrities that are going to be, you know, in the in the bucket for Kamala Harris. We're just not. But that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Republicans have won in the past, even with those kinds of odds stacked against them. But it's going to require a vibe shift. And that means that the traditional strategy of just traditional ad campaigns isn't going to work for everyone. That will work for some people, for sure. Those are important. Again, a multifaceted approach. But to change the feeling of this female voting bloc, it's not enough to say, don't focus on personality. I've made that mistake in the past. Only focus on policy. I've even had this realization in like the past several days. As much as I want that, it's got to be a vibe shift. And I do think, because I've been thinking about this and chewing on this for the past few days, like I do think I have an idea for that. I really do. I do think that I have a messaging strategy that some people more talented than I am and with more experience than I have, that they could run with the seedlings of my idea and make it into something great that would shift how at least one demographic sees Kamala Harris. And so I posted on Instagram about that, and I asked you guys, does anyone have a connection? Because I know I have a lot of people that are listening to this and watching this who are in politics, who work on the campaigns. And so I was reached out to by some people. So I just want to say thank you for that, because a lot of you spread that message. Y'all even prayed that I would get connected to the right people. Nothing has happened yet. And so I'm not getting ahead of myself. And I don't want anything out of this at all besides just handing over someone the idea. They can say, that's stupid and I hate it. Why would you even waste my time on that? And that's fine. Or maybe someone can run with it and it'll work for them. And that's all I want. I don't even need to be a part of it or anything. I just have this idea, this vibe shift idea that I think could possibly work and could really lean into this whole weird label, because what we're doing right now, this, I know you are, but what am I? Okay, you're calling me weird, but you're actually weird. I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I get it. And it might work for some people, but I don't think that that's sufficient. I don't think that's enough. So anyway, if you're listening, even though I have been reached out to by some people, but if you're listening, super PACs, Trump campaign, Vance Communications people, reach out. Let's connect. And I'm not even sharing my idea. So many of you are like, you're going to leave us hanging and you're not going to share the idea. No, I'm actually not, because I actually want this idea to come to fruition. I actually think it's good. If I just wanted you to know about it to try to get people to tell me that's a good idea, then I would share it. But I'm keeping it to myself. And plus, I don't want people across enemy lines to hear it. And I don't want them to be able to preempt it, because I actually think it's a good idea. And so reach out to me, connect with me. You know who you are, and see if you like the idea, and then you can go from there. So thank you all for supporting that and for pushing that message forward to try to get it into the hands of the right people. All right, just a little bit of an announcement. We've got subscriber exclusive parenting Q&A. I answered a lot of your parenting questions with the limited knowledge I have, but toddler, baby parenting questions, those I felt like I could answer with the experience that I have as a mom of 3. This is not really something I talk about publicly very much. And so if you're interested in that, then subscribe to blazetv.com/Allie. You'll get access to all of my subscriber exclusive content, but you'll also get access to all of Blaze TV subscriber exclusive content. You've got documentaries, you've got really fascinating stuff by Glenn, by Steve Deace, and others. You will love it. So go to blazetv.com/Allie. You can use my name, Allie, as a promo code for $20 off. So blazetv.com/Allie, code Allie. Okay, before we get into the stories that we're talking about today, let me pause and tell you about a new sponsor. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about Sherwood Kids. And so when I was first reached out to about this, they said, hey, check this out, see if you like it, see if you align with it. And the more I looked at it, the more I loved it. It's awesome. It is a kids entertainment, but it is low stimulation. Okay. And so it's not all of those quick moving scenes and bright colors, fast movements that keep kids like addicted to what they're watching, it's still entertaining. It will still grab their attention without encouraging like addiction to screen. So while most kids' entertainment is actually designed to keep your kids glued to the screen, mindlessly embracing whatever agenda is being pushed that doesn't align with your values, Sherwood takes a different approach. They have thousands of wholesome audiobooks, ebooks, read-along videos, and it's filled with the kind of stories we want our kids to enjoy, presented in a way that not only entertains but strengthens their imaginations. So they're about to launch this new platform, and right now you can get 50% off a lifetime membership at sherwoodkids.com/Allie, sherwoodkids.com/Allie. Okay, so one of you messaged me the other day about a Bible that is apparently kind of popular among parents and kids. It's marketed as a kid's Bible, and some kids have actually received this Bible at Vacation Bible School this summer. It's called the Brick Bible, and it is a children's storybook Bible. And if you grew up in the church, or if you have kids who are in church, you know these storybook Bibles are basically the Bible stories condensed and put in kind of more kid-friendly language, and they typically have illustrations of the story. And usually they kind of leave out the most gory stories, or even if they do tell, of course, the story of the flood or David and Goliath, they do it in a way that a kid is not going to be disturbed. May ask questions. Why did God flood the earth? How did a slingshot with a tiny rock in it kill Goliath? But it's not like blood gushing everywhere. And it's just to kind of help lay a foundation for a child and their understanding of scripture. Now, some people are completely against storybook Bibles because we feel like it leaves out too much and takes too many creative liberties. And whether you love storybook Bibles or you hate them, I promise you will hate this Brick Bible. It is geared towards Lego fans, and it seems like it would be awesome, especially for young boys, because it uses pictures of Lego set up in a way that seems to be depicting biblical stories. The Chicago Tribune said that it is beyond remarkable. It borders on genius. Publishers Weekly called it a curiously powerful graphic novel. The problem is that it is actually explicit. It is extremely gory. It is not theologically accurate, and it seems that it is actually meant to shock and disturb. It was seemingly created for adults who almost want to make fun of the Bible and to show how maybe cruel and merciless God seems, rather than for children to show them the beauty of Scripture and the love of Christ. So it was actually first published in 2001. It includes the first 6 stories from the book of Genesis, and then in the next decade, so through 2011, almost 5,000 biblical scenes have been added to it, illustrated with these Lego blocks, spawning nativity scene Christmas cards, sets of assorted greeting cards, posters, things like that. Many churches and Sunday school classes have reached out to the creator for permission to use his material in their classes and sermons. However, as we already mentioned, this has actually ended up being very detrimental to the faith and people's understanding of Scripture. So it depicts Bible stories in a way that is not only violent, but sexually graphic. It ridicules the nature and character of God by making him only seem garish. So for example, they have subtitles like this, like the headline for Revelation 21 through 1 through 22 is, quote, God's garish eternal tribute to himself. So very blasphemous. The author is Brendan Powell Smith. He embraced atheism at the age of 13. And he says when he was 13, he started going by this ironic nickname, the Reverend. More recently, in 2015, the author Smith came out as quote unquote transgender. So he now calls himself a female and goes by the name of L.B. Sperling, referring to himself as a quote unquote blue-haired transgender lesbian atheist. There he is. Beauty. In all, The book, with its skewed perspective on matters of faith and its wry commentary on Old Testament stories, attempts to make a case against the God of the Bible. Okay, that's what this brick Bible is about. It's attempting to make a case against the God of the Bible. So this is the screenshot that was originally sent to me. It's a part of a group called Book Reviews for Christians, and it's a picture of the brick Bible. And it looks like the cover of the brick Bible, if you can see it right there watching on YouTube, there's nothing that indicates that it would be blasphemous, of course, because it wants Christians, and it especially wants unsuspecting kids to read it. And they want these violent images to be stuck in their head so that when they think about God and they think about Christianity, they are fearful and angry. But you don't get that at all when you are looking at the cover. I would probably look at this and be like, well, this is a cute idea. I can't believe someone put in this much effort. You see Jesus walking on water, and it seems really sweet. But here is what this caption says of this person who was warning others in this group about this. It says, "Do not get this book for your children. My son won it at a VBS Sunday night. They had a Lego competition, as it was Lego VBS starting Monday. Donations were taken that were Lego themed. We left for a 2-day road trip Monday, and he read it for 2 days. He asked questions like, what's a eunuch? Not realizing there were images of characters cutting off their private parts and blood everywhere. We've had to talk about rape, as he already read that in the Bible, but this story was in there, as well as a Lego raping another Lego. It jumped from one horrific story to another, never showing God's love and grace. Even God was shown from the beginning as a mean, hateful character. I'm sick to my stomach, as I'm so careful with what he is exposed to. I look up info on the author, and some statements he/she made are included. The author is a trans atheist, and this was written to mock the Bible for an adult teen audience. All right. So that's what the brick Bible is. I just wanted to warn you against that. And again, I think it's just so insidious. It's so sneaky. It's so sly. It's so much like Satan to make a book like this that looks cheery and loving on the outside, that really on the inside is a poor depiction of what God is. Now, the Bible is gory at parts. It does talk about some really, really disturbing stuff, but these things are descriptive, not prescriptive. So just because the Bible includes some things that are very violent or very gory, are very uncomfortable to read, does not mean that they are saying these things are good. And God certainly isn't saying these things are good. And actually, I think that's something that lends to the reliability of the Bible, why we can look at this biblical canon and say, yeah, wow, that must be true, is because if the Bible were just compiled by a bunch of men who wanted to get you to believe what they believe and believe in the idea of God that they have, if they just wanted to create a faith that had control over you, then surely they wouldn't have included all of these very inconvenient parts, the parts that are tough to defend, the descriptions of God that are actually very hard to wrestle with and tough to contend with. If they just wanted to make God as attractive and as palatable as possible and to get as many people to latch on to it, they wouldn't have included the failures of God's people over and over again, the hardships that they had to go through, the death and the battles and all of that. And they also wouldn't have depicted all of these attributes of God that can be very difficult for us to understand. I think that they would have created it in a way that just tells this very easy, linear story that everyone can understand and latch on to and adhere to in this cultish way. But the only explanation for the compilation of scripture is that it must just be true. It must just be inspired, because this, it's certainly not a PR campaign for one faith. The only thing that makes it compelling is that it is true. This author, however, he's got a lot more about him that I think is important to know, and tells us a lot just about deconstruction, secularism, atheism, its assault on Christianity in general. Let me go ahead and pause. I'll tell you about our second sponsor before we get into that, and that is Lumen. This is another new sponsor that I'm so excited to tell you about. So if you remember my conversation with Casey Means, Dr. Casey Means, that was an incredible interview. That episode just blew up. It did so well because she is so brilliant. She wrote a book about the importance of metabolic health, and Lumen is basically a handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and then it's connected to an app that lets you know whether you're burning fat or carbs, gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. Guys, I need this because I am addicted to carbs. Like, I need to check myself in because I'm sure that's all I'm ever burning when I work out, because I just love and crave carbs so much. But that's actually not a sign of metabolic health. So that's really something that I need help with. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. It gives you a personalized nutrition plan. How awesome is that? For that day, based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And so check this out. This could be an absolute game changer for your body, for your weight loss, for your health journey. If you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/relatable to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/relatable for 15% off your purchase. lumen.me/relatable. What's interesting about this guy is that he's received backlash for years because of this, and yet somehow churches aren't hearing about that. They're still picking up this book. So in 2011, when he released the Brick Bible, A New Spin on the Old Testament, it was followed a year later with the New Testament volume, and then in 2013 he was able to sell them together, and it received a lot of backlash because of the inappropriate material for children. Sam's Club actually pulled the book from its shelves in 2011. Most recently, Smith has been working on another book, actually the Brick Book of Mormon, which presents the history and teachings of Mormonism. And so he really has it out for all different kinds of religions. Like I said, he became an atheist when he was 13. Before that, he was a churchgoer at the Episcopal Church. It's not all that surprising. The Episcopalian denomination is extremely liberal. I think there are probably a lot of agnostics and a lot of people who may even be atheists who attend Episcopalian churches. They are very pro-LGBTQ. They generally do not believe that the Bible is inerrant and infallible. And so it never really surprises me when people go from Episcopalian to nothing, or maybe they try to go the other direction too. Praise God. But he was probably raised in a liberal home if he was being raised Episcopalian. He said that when he read the Bible and he studied religion and philosophy at Boston University, there's another shift. He found the Bible so shocking and full of dramatic, obscene behavior that he believed that very few could actually believe this. And then in an interview in 2008, he said, "I don't think I would have been nearly as inspired to create this project if it weren't for the continuous, outrageous, and depraved actions of the Bible's main character, Yahweh. Power mad, belligerent, masochistic, petty, woefully insecure, extremely dangerous and unpredictable, and seemingly not too bright. Yahweh exhibits all the worst attributes of man." On Reddit, oh my goodness, this person's on Reddit? Shock of the century. I would have never assumed that this person would be a Redditor. Wow. Smith responded to the criticism of his Brick Bible series by defending his perception of God as vengeful. "The more of the Bible I read, the more it seemed impossible that anyone would depict Yahweh with anything other than an angry and vengeful disposition. I say that without making any judgment of Yahweh's character. I am strictly making an impartial observation. All this can be quite jarring and can cause serious cognitive dissonance for religious believers." So that's obviously why he wrote it. And he also tweeted this in October of 2022. He said, "Since Republicans and Christian ministers are far more likely to molest or rape children than LGBTQ people, I don't think children should be exposed to Republicans or Christian ministries in school or anywhere," which is obviously major projection. Again, this is a grown man who decided that he was going to pretend to be a woman. And we know what is typically what is typically underneath those desires and that shift for grown men. It is typically some kind of humiliation fetish. So for him to talk about like the sexual depravity of one group of people, what it comes down to is that he really just hates Christianity. Like he just hates religion. He hates the God of the Bible. And it's understandable because when you don't believe, you see it as, you smell it as a stench of death. And of course, I mean, 1 Corinthians 1 talks about this, that God has shamed the wisdom of the wise. And so it seems like foolishness. It seems like evil to those who are in the darkness. And it can only seem like that if it is not true. But if it is all true, that humankind fell and that we are sinful, and that God is real and that he created everything and he is perfectly holy, and therefore he cannot be in the presence of sin. And therefore he created a way that we could be reconciled to him, that we could be sinless, that we could be made new, so that we could have a relationship with him, that we could become his friend, that we could spend forever with him, that we could escape wrath. If that is all true, then yes, God is good. If it's not true somehow, then yes, this depiction, independent from that, independent from the reality of the redemptive arc that I just explained, sure, you can take bits and pieces from the Bible and say God is just vengeful. But if it's all actually true, then God is really good, that he would give us the opportunity to come to him and to be his heirs and to be his children, and to be his friends, and to live forever with him, and to be made new without any sin. And he can say, this author can say he's objective as much as he wants to, but at the end of the day, if he were, he would depict all of the love and the grace and the mercy we see from the God of the Bible. Different titles in the Bible say children to be killed as warning. God tortures, kills billions. God tortures a horror. Remaining humans doomed to torture. Son of Man's bloody gore fest. Alternative to God proves very popular. God's garish eternal tribute to himself. And then there's a bunch of sexual stuff in it. That is needlessly, explicitly sexual. Of course, this is something that is, again, depicted for children. He wants children to be reading this. And most parents would not just give their young child the Bible without any guidance or help or explanation whatsoever, because some of it is absolutely explicit. There's a right place, a right time, and a right way for that. That's why parents must disciple their children. We can show you some of these pictures, and we can just start putting them up on the screen that show you for example, like David looking at Bathsheba. This is full screen 10. And so you can see like her different body parts there as a Lego. We've got Solomon's wives and concubines, sexually explicit, full screen 11. And then we've also got some violent, very violent and strange imagery there with the apostles. We've got apostles performing magic tricks by like pulling a rabbit out of the hat. So obviously that is trivializing the actual miracles and healing that was happening. And so that's the Brick Story Bible. So unfortunately, the lesson here is we have to be so careful with what we are allowing our children to read and consume, even when it says Christian, even when it says Bible. And I actually I had just remembered this. I received some pictures, I think from the same person who sent me the stuff about this this brick Bible. There is another Bible that apparently is going around. This is a Storybook Bible, and it's called the Peace Table Bible. And it is all basically from the perspective, not exaggerating, of critical race theory. So for example, like there's one story that says strong sisters. Apparently that's the theme of Numbers 27, 1 through 11. And it goes through the story that is really not about what they are saying that it's about. And then they have a love song in Song of Songs. And then it starts with, I am black and I am beautiful. I am like a rose or a lily of the valley. My beloved is like an apple tree with satisfying and sweet fruit. So apparently the Song of Solomon is about actually being black. And then we've also got some other pages in the Storybook Bible, and it's talking about how we can make peace with creation. This is apparently biblically what we should do, and it's just a bunch of environmentalist stuff. Not all of it is wrong and bad, but it's clearly coming from just one perspective. For example, you turn off the light when you leave a room, you use less water, you bike instead of using a car or a bus. That's one way that you apparently make peace with creation. Reuse things instead of throwing them away. Pray for endangered animals. Okay, so this is apparently one of the paths to sanctification according to this Peace Table Bible. So all that to say, just be careful out there, y'all. Be so discerning. Watch out, again, for the things that your kids are consuming, and make sure that they are solid. We have to be reading and watching and listening to all of this stuff on our own. And that doesn't mean that we have to keep our kids in, this insulated bubble where they don't know anything ever, of course. But we should be in charge of that. And we should be the ones to introduce new concepts to them, because whoever has the power of introduction to a child has the authority to shape what they think about that thing, which is, of course, why these books exist and why teachers are pushing different kinds of ideology in schools and why there are different books that are pushing the ideas of gender ideology, because they know if they can get to your child first, then they can lay the foundation for what that child thinks about God, marriage, children, their own body, sexuality, gender. So we parents, we have to be the first. All right, speaking of kids, there is such a push. I know that you guys know this. We've talked about it for a while, for anti-natalism. That is like anti-children, celebrating childlessness. In fact, it is now called being child-free. And it's to the point where it's not just celebrating someone's circumstances or personal life choices or freedom or whatever it is, but it's actually denigrating children and childbearing in favor of just doing what you want to do. And it's super sad and very superficial. So there's this person named Angela Belcamino. I think she's a troll. So this is just an example of what I'm talking about, but I'm almost positive that she's rage baiting on X, because she posts things like this and people just absolutely lose their minds. I think she knows that. It gets her a lot of engagement. I'm just contributing to that, but this is an example of what I'm talking about. So she said, imagine being 42, child-free, stress-free, and being this happy. And it's just a video of her dancing in a jean skirt. And it says, the right hates this. Belcamino has also, she has a new single called Bold Lib. And the video says, being child-free threatens the patriarchy. We don't need no man. We can do everything he can. Busted. I'm a bold lib. So I don't know if she's really a liberal or if she's just, it feels like satire. It doesn't feel real. But so I don't know. I do think she's rage baiting, but maybe she is also sincere. Oh, we have some of the Bold Lib song. Here's SOT 6.
Being child-free threatens the patriarchy. We don't need no man. We can do everything he can. Busted. I'm a bold lib. Taylor's on my side. I'm a bold lib. MAGA starts to cry. What?
It cannot be real. I don't think it's real. I really don't. But this is real. This tweet, I looked at this person's profile. This is real. And whether or not that person that we just played is being legit, I think that there are plenty of people who would rock out to that and be like, yeah, I believe that too. You go, girl. Podcaster Alexa Curtis, she posted on X about choosing to fly first class over choosing to have a house and children. She said, I just met a 72-year-old woman who's been telling me about her life. Best quote she said. She must have said a bunch of hogwash because this is the best thing she said, apparently. You can either have a house and kids or you can fly first class. I want to fly first class. That's worth it. That's worth it. I mean, first class, I will say, is better than coach, but it's not that much better. Like, you're still in a metal tube with a bunch of people who probably are wearing open-toed shoes. It's not that much better. You have a little more room. Your seats are a little bit wider. Sometimes you get some gross food for lunch. It's not really that great. For you to say that you are going to be voluntarily barren your whole life because you get a few extra inches in first class is really sad. It goes back to that quote that we used yesterday by C.S. Lewis. It's not that we need more pleasure. It's that we are too easily pleased. Like, we are too easily satisfied. We're too easily entertained when the much deeper and more profound joys are there for us. They're there for the taking, but they require sacrifice. They require inconvenience. It's true. And, I realize that this is even a problem on the right. And I shouldn't say realize because I've known this. I've been talking about this for probably 6 years at this point. But when I brought up the other day that I don't think animals should go everywhere, oh my gosh, the animal worshipers came out to play and they were very angry. I just said, look, I don't think that animals should go everywhere. I don't think they should go everywhere. I like animals. I am an animal person. Like, I love dogs. I like cats, okay? Some of you animal people out there can't even say you like cats. I like cats. I like cats and dogs probably equally. I like horses. I have a lot of compassion for animals. I can't even, like, my husband sometimes likes to watch hunting shows. I can't watch them. Like, I have actually nothing ethically wrong with killing a deer or killing an animal for meat. But I do find myself, I'm such a pansy. Like, I find myself watching that. And I'm like, that buck was just living his life that day. Like, he was just going on his merry way. And then he was just shot and killed. I can't even watch that. Okay. So that's the kind of person I am. And so when I say that people are too obsessed with their pets and elevate them to the point of being people and taking them everywhere, and it's gross and it's uncivilized, when I met with, why do you hate animals? And why don't you want people to have pets? Why do you want Donald Trump to take everyone's pets out of their homes? Why do you hate me? Why are you anti-animal? Literally, those are the unhinged and emotional responses that I've gotten. And not just that, but to bring it back to our conversation, the comments that I got from professing Christian conservatives underneath my post on this was they were, well, I like, my dog is better behaved than most children. My dogs are cleaner than most children. Okay, I've got 2 points to make on that. And because you might not think you're a child hater if you are this, but you are just contributing to this whole anti-child culture, which is very, very sad. It is symptomatic of paganism and godlessness. It's a disordered passions, disordered affection kind of thing. It speaks to disorder in the heart, spiritual darkness in our country, and even individually. I have 2 responses to my dog is better behaved and cleaner than kids. Number 1, even if that's true, I don't care. I don't care. Like, the whiny toddler gets priority over your well-trained golden retriever. It does. Like, I would rather that kid be in the restaurant. I mean, of course, we all want kids to be well behaved, but I'd rather that kid be in the restaurant, be in the space, be on the plane than the well-trained dog, the non-service animal anyway. I'll make a caveat there because he's a human and humans matter more. The whiniest toddler matters more than the best trained dog. That's number 1. And number 2, your dog is not cleaner than a human. Your dog is not. Okay. Can I just be explicit for a second? I've never cussed on this show. But let me just say, like, let us remember that dogs and cats put their entire booty hole on the ground when they sit. Okay? Like, that's where poop comes out. And they put it on the floor when they sit. Okay? They're not wearing pants or a diaper or anything. I literally saw a video of this, like, little pug that this woman was walking into like a farmer's market on the concrete, and that pug just sat right down and diarrheaed all over the concrete. Tell me, like, and literally all of the comments were defending the dog. All of the comments were like, oh, that poor dog. I can't believe you were frustrated with the dog. Oh my gosh. Y'all. Oh my goodness. We have issues, y'all. Tell me how you clean that up. Like, at least a child is wearing a diaper. But even if not, it's still a human, and we have more compassion for the human than we have for a dog. Your dog is not cleaner than a human, okay? We got the booty hole problem on the floor. We got the drool, okay? And your dog licks his or her private parts, okay? And then licks everything else, and then drools on everything else, okay? It also like steps and poop and pee all the time. And then you bring it into the hotel rooms, like luxury hotels and restaurants and grocery stores. And you have the audacity to tell me that your dog is cleaner than a human being just because you let your dog eat after you. Doesn't mean that we all have to. So I actually think literally that is part of the disordered thinking that we have about animals, that we actually like aren't even worried about the health hazards that they pose. I was on a flight not that long ago where someone's husky, beautiful dog, again, like dogs, literally was just like splayed out into the aisle. This is not a service dog. And by the way, did you know that you can buy these service dog vests on Amazon? Yeah. They're probably not really service dogs. Service dogs actually have to be very well trained for like years. And there are legitimate diagnoses for that, okay? Like, I have compassion for that. People with epilepsy, people who are blind, people who have different forms of like combat injuries. Like, there are legit reasons for service dogs. And I think we should welcome service dogs into the public. But most people, just because you like don't like flying doesn't mean that you need your like service Yorkie. Okay? You don't. And anyway, yeah, this husky was just like in the middle of the aisle and barked at the flight attendant. Like, is this Noah's Ark? I just think that it is so uncivilized. I do. I think it's so uncivilized. I think it's inconsiderate. Like, okay, sure, dog park, certain areas. We used to, before we had kids, we would take our dog, we would walk our dog to like this local taco place, but we would sit outside. I never would have dreamed of trying to bring my dog inside. She was on a leash and all of that stuff. And I just think that the attention and the importance that we place on animals, it just speaks to where we are as a country. And a lot of people say, well, so many other things are more important. I don't know if there are that many more important things than animal worship. What did Chesterton say? Wherever there is animal worship, there is child sacrifice. Does that not describe our country? Like, we care so much about pets and so much about animals, but every year we sacrifice hundreds of thousands of innocent babies to Moloch. Yeah, I think that's important to talk about. I'm not saying you individually, and you can love your pet. And, I also understand, here's another part of this. Like, I understand that not everyone can have children. And when you don't have children, I would say that this maybe was me to a degree before I had kids. Like, you can channel the natural instinct for nurturing and mothering that you were supposed to be having for children into your animals, and that can make your love for them seem a lot more intense. That's why you feel the need to call yourself a dog mom. And I understand that, and we can have compassion for those people. But there are real live children that could use your resources and your love and your attention and affection a lot more. It doesn't have to even be through adoption. I mean, there are lots of different means and lots of different ways that you can love on and care for the living children who need it, that are more important just objectively to God than a dog. I think we should care for animals and have compassion for animals. But whenever they get anywhere close to the place of children, like, we are in major, major trouble. I've got more to say about the importance of kids in just a second. Let me tell you about my last sponsor. It's America's Christian Credit Union. It's been serving God-fearing Americans with integrity and faith for over 65 years. If you are worried about debanking, which is something that we have to think about, these major financial institutions cutting ties with people because of their values, how they vote, the things that they believe in, then you might want to switch to America's Christian Credit Union. Switching banks can seem like a hassle, but do you know what big corporate banks are doing with your deposits? America's Christian Credit Union was founded by pastors for the benefit of its members. For a limited time, earn $400 when you open a new checking account with qualifying activities. Plus, my listeners, relatable listeners, get an additional $100 bonus with the promo code Allie at checkout. americaschristianceo.com/Allie for complete program details. America's Christian Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Here's the thing about children. Here's the truth, is that children do make your life much different. And they do mean that you will be able to do less of what you want all the time. That is true. Like, you will get less sleep. You will have less time to focus on your wants, on your pursuits, on your health, on working out, your hobbies, your career goals, all of that stuff. All of that stuff will be for a long time or a little time in big ways and in small ways pushed to the side, at least in certain moments. It is true that there is sacrifice that's required. There's discomfort. There's inconvenience. There is a downgrading of your own happiness at times, moment by moment, and that you just don't get to do what you want to do all of the time. But that is where joy is found. Like, human beings, we're not made to run on convenience. We were not made to run on ease. We were not made to run on fleeting pleasure and selfishness. We were actually made to run on sacrifice. Like, that is our fuel. That is actually how we run best and run fastest and most efficiently. That is when we are at our best, when we are in a place of sacrificing for something that is worth it. Like, why do we call the greatest generation the greatest generation? It's because they sacrificed so much for something bigger than themselves, for freedom, for our country, for Western civilization. It's not because they lived lives of luxury and licentiousness. They're actually the generation that went through some of the hardest times in American history, and they're great because they overcame challenges. We don't call people great. We don't lionize people who just live lives of ease and pleasure. And having children, raising children, sacrificing for your children, discipling your children is an act of heroism. And not only that, because I don't want it to seem like it's just sacrifice, like, it's really fun. It is fun. Like, I can't even describe to you just the joy that your children put in your heart. To love and to be loved as a mom is like the greatest thing I've ever experienced. It's so hard to put it into words. And plus, as they're getting to this age where they're developing their personalities and asking questions, and they're so independent and so much, and even just asking the most like theologically sharp questions at moments that really make you think about like your own faith. I mean, there's just nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that. No dog could ever give me that. A dog loves me because I just happen to be the human being that gives it food. There's no real like relationship there. The dog doesn't know me. It's so different with parenting. And plus, you learn so much about God through parenting, because our relationship with our kids is reflective of the Father's relationship with us, but also the Father's relationship with the Son. That, gosh, how much did God love me that he would send his own Son to die on my behalf? How many of us would sacrifice our own children that we love more than anything in this life on behalf of someone else? I don't think any of us would. That's how much God loves us. And so you learn so much. You become a good manager. You become a more compassionate person, a more understanding person, a better communicator, 1,000 times more patient. You're able to see the big picture of things so much better. And I'm not saying people who don't have kids can't have all of these awesome attributes, but I am saying God uses children to make you better. and to sanctify you in a way that just pursuing what you want just can't. It just can't. And listen, I know that many of you out there, many of you women, like you're listening to this and you want kids. You don't not have kids because you're just being selfish and you're just doing what you want to do. You're just in the circumstance in which God has placed you in and you have to make the best of it. Look, you are fully a woman. You are fully a Christian. God has a full and wonderful plan for you to use you for his purposes and for his glory and to advance his kingdom in the circumstance you are right now. That doesn't start when you get married or have kids. That starts right now. So you're not less than, you're not half of a woman or anything like that. I want you to know that like God's purpose for you is right now in this circumstance too. But if you are in a circumstance to be able to have kids, don't put it off. Just go ahead and do it. All right. That's all I got to say about that. Satan is out for our kids. He is out for our kids. We see that throughout history. He loves to come after kids because kids are vulnerable. Kids are easily susceptible to his tactics, and that is why God gave them parents. It's our job to steward them, protect them, love them, disciple them well, help them be strong and brave and bold and wise and kind. All right, that's all I got for today. We will see you back here tomorrow.